Well, the first thing I learned that actually the situation is a little bit similar to Japan in a sense that social workers are not aware that they should be more involved in this field. Actually, that's a problem what we have in Japan as well. You mentioned, many groups mentioned, almost I think all groups mentioned, that other professionals work with migrants, but not so much social workers. The same thing is in Japan. We have a lot of volunteers and NGO workers and lawyers working with migrants, but not so much social workers. I hope that will change in both countries. And as you mentioned in the presentations, one important thing to change is that to include culture awareness, culture sensitivity in training. I think that's an important thing so that future social workers could be more aware of the issues of migrants and can identify migrants, can work with migrants. They have the ability, the competence to do that. So I think in a sense that there's a lot to do with education, social work education, I think. However, and that's me keeping it brief, one thing I realized that Sri Lanka, when compared to Japan, and you guys, the Sri Lankan social workers, you have a huge advantage, an inherent strength that we do not have in Japan, is that while you're not always aware of it in your practice, regardless of social work, Sri Lankan society itself is already historically and traditionally a multicultural society. It's also multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic, and very importantly, multi-religious society. So what I mean by that, why that it is a strength, because Japan is one of the most secular countries in the world. So it's difficult for us, because sometimes we do not consider ourselves so much spiritual or religious, so it's difficult to be aware of the importance of spirituality in other people. And many migrants, of course, are not that secular as Japanese people. So I think that it's a huge strength what you have. And I think, you know, many of you mentioned that since your own faith is important for you, being it Buddhism, being it Islam, being it Christianity, or also Hinduism, since you understand how your own faith is important for you, it's easier to understand and have the motivation to learn about other people's spirituality, which is, I think, the most important thing in working cross-culturally, because all the values come from spirituality, come from religion, and all those values represent themselves in how people live, lifestyles, customs. So I think that's very important. So I was especially impressed by one of the, I think it was one of the students that she mentioned that herself is Catholic, but she's reading the Quran. I think that's really something that that you can be proud of. I think I just wish that we were so eager in Japan. So, and the last thing I would like to mention is that it's actually, it's very, well, so, yes, and since you already have that, regardless of professional education, you already have a sense of spirituality and a sense of having a strong heritage in your own case. You are aware of you are maybe even unconsciously aware of in your everyday life that Sri Lankan society is multicultural. So I would suggest that there's also a lot of work to do to record that hidden knowledge that you already have, that know-how. So I think many people already do it on an everyday basis. So you just have to look at it, how that affects social work practice, and how it can be, you know, related to theory, and how it can be taught in schools of social work. It all starts actually. I was really impressed that. So one last message I would like to emphasize from the presentations is actually, I think it's the presentation just behind that one. You started with cultural sensitivity, and cultural sensitivity starts actually with motivation to know, to being genuinely interested and show genuine interest. So it's not about being, competent, so to say, in another culture, but to be able to work with the client to learn about his or her culture on your own, and you have to have a genuine interest in people to do that. But I think that's what we as social workers are good at. Thank you. That will be all.
So with that note, we have come to the end of the first session of today's program. So thank you very much, Dr. Victor Burak, for your insightful presentation. And now I would like to invite Mr. Nalin Dhammika to give away the token of appreciation for our speaker.